Hey, it's Phil Ratcliffe, joining you from our main office in Gahanna, Ohio. Thanks for tuning in again. We've actually been rushing around because we had a huge change. We were supposed to have a guest on, and at the last minute she couldn't make it. And so I don't want to disappoint you thinking that we're not going to have a good show because that happened, because we've been working really, really hard in this last hour and a half that we've known to actually put some good content together for you, because being kind of a DIY person, we have learned to do a lot of things. And I think some of those things could be useful to just about anyone, but a lot of us don't think that we'll necessarily be able to do them. So if you'll see in that kind of that time I was rushing around, we've kind of actually even updated, like when you look at the YouTube thing, there's our live stream. We updated, the marketing piece from it and the title and everything. So what we're actually going to do is go over making great low-cost DIY digital marketing pieces. And so what do we mean by that? So like if you needed to make a flyer for an event that you were doing, or for your church or charity or business or whatever the case, a lot of times people say, well, I don't know how to do that, so I've got to get someone else to do it, or I got to pay someone else to do it, or it's going to take a long time. And so a lot of times this quality content doesn't get produced, and so it's just not ever really produced. And so a lot of people don't know about the things that they could have known about if you were going to go to a meeting, or you could have given out something, or you could have done something like this on your YouTube page that shows people what's coming up so they know what they're going to tune into, and maybe more people would show up. So really, I'm going to concentrate really kind of on three things that I think can kind of give you the biggest bang. First, I'm going to kind of put a plug in for one of the softwares that we use a lot, for more than what I'm going to go over for you, and it's called Adobe Creative Cloud. So you probably heard of Adobe because almost everybody uses Adobe Reader. Which is when you have a PDF on the internet and you open it or download it or whatever, you're generally going to read it in Adobe Reader. It's a free software. But the Creative Cloud is kind of their paid thing, to where you can make lots of creative things. And up until, oh gosh, I think it's somewhere between 2 to 3 years ago, Adobe used to put out this thing called Creative Suite. And it had all these different programs that you could use to edit photos, to make graphics, to make brochures, to actually make the artwork in vector-based art, so that it's really high resolution, etc. images. So there are lots of stuff you can do it, edit web pages, etc. But it used to cost thousands of dollars. And so unless you are a professional or a bigger firm that employed a marketing person, you weren't going to pay for that. And so one of the cool things that they've done is they've changed from just selling this big thing that companies would buy, or if you were a creative person that was on a budget, you might buy it once every like 3 years or something like that, to something that's subscription based. And so even if you're going to pay full price, it's only $50 a month, okay? If you're a student or teacher, I think it's like 20 bucks a month. And if you're a nonprofit or what, so it's like 35 bucks a month. Business, I mean, if you're a bigger business, you can look at this, but I mean, even I think I have like 3 memberships to the individual, so that I can put it on the computers that I need, but keep our costs relatively well and still let people to work with it. But this is an awesome program, and or subscription, because you get like 20 different programs or more, and in things that you can do to manipulate PDFs or pictures, or create graphics and make your own brochures, or even if somebody else did most of the work and you just need to touch up a couple things, you've got the software to be able to do it. Odds are they probably made it in this stuff, even if you hired someone else. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to show you is Adobe oriented. So one of the things that I've discovered more recently than not, this isn't as sophisticated, and actually this part of Adobe can be free. Okay, it's called Adobe Spark, right there. And basically, you don't have to have Creative Cloud or anything. You can sign up for a free account, but when you make stuff, it kind of has a little plug or slide that will say, made in Adobe Spark, with like their URL or web address on there. If you want to remove that and you have a Creative Cloud thing, whenever you generate your link, you'll just say remove, that from there, and you won't have that. But so if you just wanted to play with this and try it, you could actually do it for free. And so kind of in about 20 some of those minutes when I was getting ready for this meeting, I made this little almost like marketing or promotional piece that you could use for almost anything. And again, it's not perfect because I had to do it really fast, but it just shows you how good a quality of stuff that you can make in a really short period of time. And if you search around, you may have a lot of photos or what so, but there are lots of services out there for stock photography, for stock videos, that you can go and find and use them when you're making things. It's actually taking a while to load up. So what we'll do is skip over to the one that I actually made. This was the output of it. Hopefully while that's loading, after we actually watch it, we'll come back and I'll show you a little bit of how I made it, and you can see that yes, you can do this too. So let's look. So when we look right here, I'm going to play this, and basically what I did is made some slides with like a stock movie background, put some words into it, and then I voiced over. So again, it's not professional voiceover or what so, but I think for 20 minutes it's pretty good. So let's watch it.
If you could make great content quickly, your message would be great, and everyone would know just what you wanted to say. Your event would be a huge success, and your business would prosper. Now you know you can do it.
So again, it's not perfect, but hey, that's pretty good. 20 minutes, right? And I made it. Let's refresh this. For some reason, it's just not wanting to load up. It's interesting because a lot of times I've been finding, having problems with different programs or what so that I have to try Chrome or Internet Explorer or Edge, and one of the three will work. So let me click this off, and we'll come here. So this kind of shows you how it's made, okay? So you can add extra slides into here. And what I did from here is when I came into here, I said, when you first do it, there's 4 options you can do, but since the text is already in here, it's only showing you 3. So you can add a video, you can add a photo background, you can delete the slide, or you can add text. So what I did is I added a video background into here, and then I cut it to how long I wanted this slide to be. This video clip was actually 12 seconds, so it's about the length that I wanted to do this little demo thing. And so each one of those slides has a different piece of the video in it, as you can see there. And then I record the voice for each slide. That's why I didn't match up perfect. But again, I was crunched for time on this. So boom, boom, you make each slide, you type in what you want to say, bam, I could change it if I wanted to, just like you see there. You can change even like, what the background is going to look like. And so we change that right there. And like say you preview this to check out what's going to happen there. Give it a second.
What if you could make great content quickly? Your message would be...
You see it changed the way that the text look. It'll change the way that it pops up or goes down or transitions or what so. And if you didn't have this background in here, let's just say, you deleted that background, then it would have these default backgrounds. So you don't even have to put a video in there if you wanted it to look, just like the background color that is. So you could even make it faster than I did if you didn't put a video background. And then once you're all done, you say you want to share it, and then you give it the details, and it'll kick out a URL that you could put onto YouTube or onto your Facebook channel or onto your Twitter channel. I mean, if it's under 2 minutes, you can upload a video actually to Twitter and post it that way. So this is a cool little tool that you can actually do for free and make cool things. And you can make a post, you can make a page, you can make a video. So another one that I was working on is kind of like a little page. And tomorrow we're actually running a 5K. And so I fast, just started throwing this together. I took a stock image from the Adobe Spark and used it as the background right there. Or no, I had the stock image. So I threw this cartoon stock image there. I say, join Rebel Financial for the Challenge Columbus 5K, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Put a picture from last year. Tony actually has a video that he made for us about this. I could pop that right down there, and boom, we could upload this to one of our pages on our website like that. And that, I mean, seriously, took me like 2 minutes, okay? And so like a lot of these tools that they make now, we used to think that it had to be professional, or we just couldn't do it ourselves, or it would take hours and hours and hours. And a lot of these companies have invested a lot of time and money to make that not the case now. So, you know, I would challenge you to try some of these things. I think they do a free trial for the Adobe Cloud, so try it and you can download these. You know, for example, I wanted to show you, I just made this probably in like 2 minutes and got it uploaded. I mean, I was doing like 20 things before this to make this a good live broadcast to show you something cool, but I wanted to have everything up to date. So, you know, this is actually 3 different components. It's nothing fancy. And I know all you people that are in the digital marketing world or what's are like saying, oh, that's not even that good. I mean, give me some credit here. This is not my primary occupation, and I did this in like 2 minutes, okay? So what I did here is I took our logo right here, you know, one that I have a pretty high quality resolution picture of, plugged it in here, resized it to the size that I wanted. This is just text. I just typed it into here, and then I changed it to the color that I wanted it to be and the size, and told it that I wanted it to justify in the middle and not to the left or the right. And then this picture right here, since I'm pretty much plugging Adobe a little bit, I don't think they'd mind me using some of their trademarked stuff, but what did I do? I just came to Google, I searched for Adobe Creative Cloud, went to images, found the one I wanted to use. Bam, you see it right there. I saved image as, and then I came into their product down here, and let's go, where was there? Let's see, right there. And you see, it was like humongous. The resolution on this was really big, so I had to just make it smaller so it would fit into mine. But you might say, I'm not going to know how to do that. Look at all these tools and stuff that are over here. I don't even know what anything means. You don't have to know everything. The internet and YouTube is awesome now, okay? So if I say, you know what, I don't know how to change this little picture inside of my bigger picture, which in this program is called a layer. You know, you can see it down here. It's a layer. That's that layer. That's that layer. That's that layer. And so if I came here and I said, you know what, I don't know how to change the layer size in Photoshop. Oh my God, it just put it right here. Click on the layer you want to resize from the layers panel on the right side. If you don't see the layer panel, press F7 on the keyboard to display it. Click Edit at the top, click Transform, then click Scale. So let's just do exactly what it says. So I'm on this layer right here. I come up here to say Edit, I say Transform, and then I'm going to say Scale. Okay? Whoa, look at that. Huh? Even if I didn't know how to do it, Google just told me how to do it in 2 seconds. You can learn how to do this easy. And I would say the value that you'll get for making good pieces for whatever you need it for your business or charity or your church or, you know, some event for your kid's graduation or what, so you can make awesome stuff like this. And you gotta be careful, you know, like I said, this is a trademark. But again, I'm trying to give them a plug. We use them. We're a customer. I don't think that they're going to mind. You could get a cease and desist. But again, respect people's intellectual property, you know, etc. Stock images are really cheap these days because there's more of us people going out and buying them. And then we're supporting artists and creative people still. We're not cutting them out of the loop. We're letting them make the really good fancy stuff. And we're just piecing it together and stuff that we can use. Plus, we get it when we need it, because you probably have that awesome inkjet printer in your basement that costs you $50 that you could print out 30 of these and take them to work with you or to church, and man, that's awesome, you know? So you could do something like this, and then, you know, you can save it. Again, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but if you push Control-Alt-S, oh wait, I got a sticker on that. So then I could save it as whatever I want. So if I wanted to save it, because in a lot of times you were trying to upload it to whatever, it'll say you need it as a JPEG, or you need it as a GIF, or you need it as a PNG, or whatever. Then just come up here, pick what you want, boom, 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 boom. Okay, so in that instance, and then how big I want it, you know, so let's say this is too big, it's just gonna make it bigger. So I just want it 750 wide, and then it'll tell you kind of down here how big it's gonna be, you know, 77 kilobytes, it's not too big. And then you can just save it, and then you save it where you want to, and bam, you got it. You could upload it to, you know, overnight prints or whatever you're doing, and you can use it. So I'm not going to go much farther than this. This is pretty simple. I would tell you, try that Spark thing. If you have need for like a poster, a web page, or like that little video, you can make a slideshow video thing like I did. Or you want to make graphics and what's so, and you could use Photoshop. Sign up for Creative Cloud. I mean, it's $50 a month. You're allowed to put that on 2 computers or 2 different users on 1 computer. You know, so even if you were using one for yourself to do this, I mean, teach your middle school or high school kid how to use this stuff. I mean, that is an awesome skill to have, regardless. And that's probably cheaper than a lot of the stuff you spend educationally. So, you know, I really hope this helps. A lot of people ask us, how do we make a lot of the great graphics and do it? And a lot of it has been from experimenting, playing with things, and then if you get stuck, you just Google it real fast. And I mean, we just read the top of that, but there were 4 videos down there that you could have played that were, you know, less than a minute, that would have actually showed you exactly where to click. So I know some of you are saying, well, I don't know what a layer is and that and this. Well, if you would have played the video, it would have shown you exactly what to do. And by playing with it for a few months, every time you need to use it, you'll actually get pretty good at it. You make things fast. So anyways, thanks so much for tuning in. I apologize that it wasn't exactly the subject that we said it was going to be. I think this will be very useful to a lot of y'all. Join us next week. We're going to have Greg Montgomery on. I think that's going to be awesome in terms of like technology consulting for regular people, smaller business, on how to fix things, make things more efficient so you can work more productively. Then the week after that, we've got Walter Iguaz coming in from Tortilla Street. So talking to us about the restaurant, food truck industry. It's going to be awesome. Then the week after that, I think we're going to be at another trade show, the plastic surgery trade show. So you have to tune in for us and check that out as we're there. And then the week after that, we're going to have a special guest coming in doing that does small events for like painting and wine and dine. And so we're actually looking into putting an event on for Rebel Financial for our clients and what so sometime probably in October. So thanks so much for joining in. We hope you're having a great week, that you'll learn something. Have a super weekend, and if there's anything that we can ever do for you anytime, just let us know.